Hello viewers, this is Nanekia here, your host for A to A Talk Show. So today's guest is Jenny Currathers. I've known Jenny for quite some time, and she is here to share her knowledge and ideas about teaching children from different cultures. Welcome to the show, Jenny. I've known you for some time, but I would still like you to introduce yourself because I know you. A lot of people don't know Jenny, so I would like you to introduce yourself to viewers so they will know who Jenny is.
Okay, thank you, Nana, or Gina as I know you. It's lovely to be here, and it's so good to see this aspect that you're developing, and I think it's a great medium to involve a lot of people in the community. So my name's Jenny Currathers, and I am technically a retired teacher. I taught for 42 years. I took early retirement, but yes, for a long time all in the Queensland education system, in the state system, and I've just been doing a bit of contract work in my old school because I gave it up, not because I was tired of teaching, but because I had other things I wanted to do. But I'm happy to go back into the classroom. I didn't get sick of the kids or anything. So now I teach when I feel like it and travel when I feel like it. And it's a good combination.
That's good, Jenny.
Yes.
So we are going to chat about children from different cultures.
Yes.
So as a child migrating into a different culture, like the Western culture, what is expected of children who migrate from a different culture to Australia? What is expected of them in schools when they come to school?
Well, the first thing is in the state school system, and I can only speak fully for the state system, is that all the schools who have children from a diverse background will have a coordinator. Now, in our schools, we're talking CALD, culturally and linguistically diverse, so we're looking at the backgrounds. But in the state system, we will have an EALD coordinator. It used to be ESL, English as a second language, and now it's English as an alternative language or dialect. So a teacher is assigned that role. Their job is to look at the enrolments coming into the school and to organise support. So that's part of their teaching load. They won't teach full time. Part of their job will be when these new students come into the school to meet with the families and to, I guess you'd say, assess their needs. Some of them will come from milperra, where if they haven't had much English background, and they'll spend a time there. When it's considered that they're ready to move into mainstream schooling, one of the points of call will be this coordinator within the school. Milperra is the special school. It has a high school facility just over near, not quite at Corinda, but at Chelmer there, or Graceville, and they take the students who arrive here with their families who have very little English. Now, particularly from refugee backgrounds, for example.
Is it initials for something, milperra?
Milperra is an Aboriginal word, and to be honest, I'm not sure what the meaning is. Okay. It's probably relating to a location. It's near the river there, so all the Aboriginal words have their own particular meanings. I've not actually ever taught there, but it's been going at least since the 70s. So children, particularly of refugee backgrounds, or the families may have come here for work, they have very little English. To give them the real basics of English, they go there for a term or two at least, until they have enough English to literally survive in a regular classroom. Because unfortunately for people from overseas, a lot of Australians are fairly monolinguistic. English is our first language. In the old days, we did things like French and German at school, but we don't get a lot of French and German migrants, and those that we do have fairly good English. So, our migrant populations are coming from countries where most of us don't have expertise in their language. So we need to ready them for working in our classrooms by getting them into the basics of English before they join.
Do you have a lot of Africans?
Not a lot. We have a number. Some schools have a lot. Again, this happens, it depends, I guess, on the geography of the school and the different communities. So if you look at a school like Uronga,
Okay, where
a lot of Africans have settled in that area.
Okay.
They'll have a high African population. I used to teach at Kenmore High, and we had some African students, but their fathers were uni lecturers, and so they were the children of professionals.
Okay.
Rather than from the refugee community, and they had perfect English, so they just came straight in. But when we're looking at our refugee ones, there are a few at the school I'm teaching at, but not a large number. But then we've had a lot of Vietnamese, Sri Lankans, there's a lot of Chinese students, Indian students. It's very multicultural, but the African ones would be in the minority at my particular school. We have very few people of Greek background, for example, or Turkish. But you go to the other side of Brisbane and there'll be a large number of people of that background.
What are some of the support in place?
So the support is that we have
children to settle.
Yes, we have this particular coordinator.
Okay.
They're timetabled to meet with these students regularly and to support them in the classroom, literally to go into the classes, and they'll say the maths lesson is on or the English lesson or whatever. And this particular teacher will support certain groups in the classroom. There are other teachers who will do that as well, but the teacher, coordinating teacher, it's their job to work out a timetable for all these students. For example, the school I'm at present has about 40 odd students who are recently arrived, and they say that's within the last 5 years. So they will get in-class support because they've arrived within the last 5 years. They're not all refugees, but some have come in, the parents have come for work. Some are of refugee background, mothers at women at risk or global humanitarian resettlements, those sorts of programs. And those ones and the others who come, so dads come in from China or Vietnam to work here in a specialised trade, but the children have very little English, so they also would get this sort of support. If they've been here longer than 5 years, we know who they are, but there won't actually be in-class support as a general rule. I mean, my school has nearly 250 of those students who have other English as an alternative language or dialect. Yes, so English is not spoken at home as a first language, put it that way. So that's about a fifth of the school. So that's quite a group, but a lot of them have gone to school here their entire life. So some of them were born here, and whether they're African or Vietnamese or whatever, they're born here. They've gone through the schooling system right from the start. So they're exposed to English from infancy, basically, in the community. Even if at home, another language is the first language, like.
Okay, Jenny.
Yes.
So as a teacher, how do you deal with cultural clashes between children? And
to be honest, I haven't noticed cultural clashes in the school I'm in at present. I was at another school some years ago, and the spectre of racism is around, I guess, and it's something that does have to be watched out for. In that particular school, though, the racism was not towards the Aboriginal and Islander students, it was towards the Vietnamese teacher, because there were no Vietnamese and very few Chinese students. And unfortunately, if you're different, it seems to be that's when it can rear its head. So it's not that everyone is racist against Aborigines or everyone is racist, say, or towards Africans or towards this culture or that. Is if it's a culture that the families in that community haven't been exposed to at all, regardless of what it is.
So in
that's
school,
where you
how
see
do
it.
they deal with
So if you notice,
discriminate against
if
an African
if I hear
person or
if I hear a student
somebody
say
from a different
something,
other language,
yeah.
what do you, from a different cultural background, how do you?
If
deal
I
with it?
hear something in the classroom, you never let it go. Okay. If some kid makes a comment, even in passing, the other day someone said something about Muslims, and I just went, and I said, "Don't you say that." He was talking about something that's not right to say that, to make a generalisation like that. That's a racist statement, and we don't appreciate that, and we don't talk like that in this school. Okay. And so you have to let them know. You can't let any of those sorts of statements, and I must say there are not many, the school I'm in, people have friendships from all different friendship groups. As I said, there's a lot of students from different cultures, but as a teacher, you never don't hear something if it's said, even if it's not something you're meant to hear. If you overhear a student putting another student down, I mean,
what about if someone come and report to you?
If someone came and reported,
said this.
Yes, I think what you would need to do then is you first of all you would get the student who is reported to have said it and have a little chat to them as well. You may need to get the two students together. So the one who has made the racist comment then needs to be made, first of all, needs to be made aware of what they've done and how it's insensitive and inappropriate, and then you need to bring the students together so that the one who's said the inappropriate thing can apologise and give the other student a chance to accept the apology and move forward, because you have to resolve the conflicts in a peaceful way. You don't want any ongoing things to simmer. You don't want the offended student to think that nothing's happened and nothing's been said to the other person. They need to know that you have dealt with it. The student who said the wrong thing needs to know that what they've done is not appropriate, and you need to talk to them. I mean, often it comes out of ignorance. I mean, basically all racism is ignorance and fear. And it's just that they don't know, they don't understand, and it's different. And if they've not been exposed at home, if they don't have parents who've talked about tolerance.
Is there any event in schools to promote other cultures?
Oh yes, and that's why I say all schools will do a few different things. There's a range. First one, we've had it for quite a number of years now. They wear orange ribbons. It's usually about March the 21st. It's called Harmony Day.
Harmony Day, yeah.
And you've probably heard of that.
Yes.
Yes. And the children often say the student councils or the student representative forums. They're called different things in different schools. They'll either give students the little ribbons or they'll sell them for a nominal amount as a little fundraiser for something. There's usually a special assembly. The students maybe, what happened at my school is that students will be encouraged to come and dress in their traditional dress, and there'll be a special parade. Sometimes primary schools find it easier to do the food thing than high schools, just given the way that high school students move between classes. But there's often a day where different foods from different cultures are all served. There'll be acknowledgement on assembly. People will get up and talk about where they've come from, what it means to have friends from different cultures.
Harmony Day, is there anything else?
And then there's later on there's Multicultural Week, and so we have performances. We get people will come in from outside in some cases. It depends on the school. It depends on the resources in the community. So the students will celebrate the different cultures within the school. So you'll get people to stand up and see how many cultures do we have. We might have 50 people from 50 different countries and different cultures in the school. So that's acknowledged and celebrated, and so everyone knows that we've got people from all these different places, and that's a good thing.
Yeah.
So,
Jenny, as a teacher,
yes.
How do you deal with complaints from parents?
I personally have never had one actually, but there is a process. So if it's a serious complaint, it probably would involve the EALD coordinator or the head of...
Let's say, for example, someone told my daughter that she's this, that, and I want to bring it to your attention.
Okay.
How do you do
that actually happened to a friend of mine with a daughter who has some African heritage in a primary school. And I was, not my school at all, obviously, but because I'm a teacher, I spoke with the family. That was dealt with through a deputy. So it's considered to be quite serious. So you might talk at first with the classroom teacher.
It was escalated that high.
And yes, it was, because it wasn't easily resolved, because the other small girl involved didn't seem to see the seriousness of what she had done.
Okay.
So it went beyond the classroom teacher to the deputy principal, so that the family of the child who was the offender could see that it was treated very seriously.
Don't mention it, but what
was
the outcome?
No.
Yeah,
The
what
outcome.
was the outcome?
In the end, it was an unusual one. Although the school sort of said made moves to improve the situation, the family felt that she would be better off with a fresh start because that girl was still going to be in the same class, and they weren't convinced that although the girl had been spoken to, that she really had changed in the way that she needed to. So they had been thinking of moving the child anyway, and I guess this was the thing. They just felt that they would make a fresh start, and that's worked out very well. But any sort of complaint, if it's not resolved at the classroom teacher level quickly and easily, it will then go to either a year level coordinator. See, it's not a curriculum thing. It's not like cheating on a test or something where it's related to the subject matter. So for us, we have maths classes, English classes, geography, biology, whatever. So it's not curriculum. So it doesn't go to the head of department, but it will go to a year level coordinator who has a pastoral care role in how the children act with each other and with the rest, interact with the rest of the school. So in a big school, there'll be a year level coordinator. That doesn't happen in primary schools, but probably there'd be a deputy who would deal with that. So it would go there. Occasionally you get parents who don't really understand the train of, so I shouldn't say complaints, but the way things operate. And some of them, the first you'll hear of it is there's a call from the regional director. I'm not saying in the case of this, but sometimes some parents will go, right, and I'm ringing the regional director. Straight to the regional director. Yeah. And the principal and the deputy know nothing about it.
Nothing about it. That's
because
wrong.
the kid, these days, the kid's got the phone, kids rung mum or dad, and they've got on to the regional director and jumped on their...
So what do you tell a parent?
So the regional director will then go, but we need to talk to the people in the school. And then it will come back to the principal, who will then call the students up and the parents as well.
Yeah, do you tell the parents that maybe next time you should...
And the principal would say,
there, but
yes, no, it should start within the school. So you have, if you like, a hierarchy. You start at the classroom level, then you go to the year coordinator or the deputy. If it's very serious, it would involve the principal. I mean, I can't think of anything where you're just calling someone names. There are offences whereby people are suspended for a number of days, and the sorts of offences where they'd be suspended, I don't think making a racist comment is one of those, if it was just like a one-off thing. But if it was bullying, targeted bullying that was repeated, and after there'd been discussions and the student still didn't stop it, then the student doing the bullying, there'd be a mechanism by which that they would have to be withdrawn from classes. So yes.
You've been teaching for 42 years,
yes,
as you say. So I know you've met children from,
lots of different backgrounds.
A lot of children from children who have behavior issues.
Yes, yes.
How do you deal with children like that, with behavior issues? Now,
the behavior issues, I must say that generally speaking, the children of African background, the children of Asian background, they are less likely to be behaviour problems than local Australians, because people from those cultures value education far more. That's why I say to the students who've born here, grown up here, first world children, born and bred, sometimes they don't realise, they don't value what they have, really. Education's there and they're wasting it. Some of them are wagging school. And yet, for people who've come from poverty, from a refugee situation, whether it be an African country or Afghanistan or Iraq, this is the ticket out of poverty. This is the ticket to a better life. And you only have to look at the guy from Western Sydney who came here as a refugee, as a 15-year-old, and he got an award.
Are you talking about Deng?
Yes, yes. And he came here and he basically taught himself English and he got into university and he's a lawyer. Yes, yes. And he just grasped those opportunities. And we've got a lot of children who are sitting in classrooms doing the minimum just to get by, because they can, because mum and dad are supporting them and cushioning their life, and it's easy. It's a bit too easy sometimes for some of our local children. And these people come in, the children from the African cultures, because if it's like your family, you're an educated family, you're not from the refugee background yourself, but your culture is value education.
Yeah.
And your kids don't get to sit back and waste their time. I mean, some of the local children are horrified to hear that kids are going to Saturday classes and things like that. It's quite common amongst African and Asian parents, you know, and they're horrified at the thought because the parents from these communities see the value of education. So,
so you don't get a lot.
Don't get a lot. We do.
Behaviour issues from
the behaviour. No, the behaviour issues are probably more from the other culture. Sometimes, though, you can get children who might have learning difficulties as well. Now, that can be across the spectrum.
Is it because of their English?
Not just because of their English, but a processing difficulty within the brain. And so, I mean, you can have that with people with English as a first language. And there are children of English-speaking background who have learning difficulties and they can't progress through the system.
But kids like that, I don't think they belong in a school.
A lot of them are kept in the regular school. The special school is for those who are very severely disabled mentally and have very backward learning. It's very severely impacted. A lot of them, they closed a lot of those down and put them into the regular schools. But having said that, remember we've got our ELD support for those who've come in the last few years who struggle with English because they're newly arrived. So they need help with interpreting the work and explaining even like the cultural differences with things. Just trying to think, I can't think of an example because I'm a maths teacher, but I guess, say things to do with Anzac Day, for example. If we're doing a big thing on Anzac Day in modern history and so on, then children from Ghana or Rwanda or Sudan, it has no meaning and they've got no connection with that particular thing. Whereas there are other things that are universal. So they need to be, given some information about that, some background information before they can process it for the lessons. So they've got the English where they're getting help, and there's always help in the lunch breaks as well. Students can go up if they want extra help. The other group, the behaviour support, is for children who struggle to learn effectively because of their learning difficulties. And so you'll have other teachers who will go in and support the class and help, in some cases, keep certain kids on task. You know, if they're in the autism spectrum and things like that. So they may need a particular person who goes with them. The students who hate a change of routine, for example. So you have things like a fire drill or a bomb scare, and all of a sudden it's not like every day. Those students need particular support, or some of them can become very, very distressed.
Thank you very much for coming to the show. But please, as a teacher, I will give you just you know, just use this platform to advise children out there, please.
Yes, and let them know. And I mean, I'm always saying to the ones who, if I see a new African student, I go up and talk to them and ask where they're from and how they're settling in and things like that, because I just want to make sure that they know, you know, there's Auntie Janet's shop and there's different things here that they can get what they need and that so they feel comfortable and happy.
Any advice to children out there as a teacher? As a teacher, you're talking the African children or just children in general? I say general, both African and... Appreciate everyone. You make friends across other cultures. That's really been the thing for me. Having friends from other cultures is wonderful. I love my own family. I've got Australian friends. But the thing that's really enriched my life is making friends. Don't just stick to the same thing. So reach out to the new people, make friends, and you'll have a wonderful time wherever you go in the world. Secondly, I'd say appreciate education. Make the most of your opportunities. You don't all have to be academics, but do something with your life, and everyone can make a difference. Speak up. And the other thing would be, if someone is saying the wrong thing or doing the wrong thing, speak up. Never let it pass. Thank you very much, Jenny, for participating in this show. We are really grateful. I think not me alone, the whole Australian society is very grateful to have you here on the show. So thank you very much for coming. Thank you, Nana. So viewers, this brings us to the end of the show today. Please don't forget to subscribe our YouTube channel, like us on Facebook, like our page on Facebook, follow us on Instagram and Twitter, and we will see you again next time. My name is Nanekuya. Bye.